Hi, this is Scott Garibay. Today I'm going to be talking about Tiny Dungeon 2E. So this is a brand new tabletop role-playing game. It came out very recently, I think right this year, 2018. It's the second edition of the game. Tiny Dungeon is only about 25 pages long, and I think it's available for like $3, right? But this is I am reviewing the $20 PDF version that I purchased on DriveThruRPG for this game. It's about 200 pages long, which really kind of begs the question of Tiny Dungeon. How tiny are you if your product is 200 pages long? But actually, you know what? Let me stop myself. I got no complaints about this game, man. It is crazy good tabletop role-playing game. 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommended. It is created by Alan Barr. Now, Alan Barr, I've been doing a little bit of research on him as a greater creator within the tabletop role-playing game Scape, and looks like he came up through the Savage Worlds community. Looks like he was a big fan of Savage Worlds, maybe created some content within that space, done some streamed games within that space, was a respected game master, respected player within the Savage Worlds tabletop role-playing game community. I like Savage Worlds. I think it's a really cool game. It kind of fell through the cracks for me. It's a really good system. I like it a lot. But one of the issues I think I have with it overall is that essentially, I don't really think I have too many issues with it. It has a $10 core rulebook, which is awesome. I actually own that $10 core rulebook. It's a really fantastic game. But it just kind of fell between the cracks where in the space where I would have logically run that, when it came out, there were just another game taking its place, something else I was excited about. But I get, you know, and I think maybe there's a little bit of Savage Worlds DNA in this, but not much. This game is truly unique. So Alan Barr has done something really, really special with Tiny Dungeon 2E. So let's talk about it, all right? What has he done? So one, this thing is stripped to the bones, bare minimum, super simple, elegantly simple rule set, right? It's a 3D6 system where essentially when you do a test, a standard test in this game is 2d6. You roll 2d6. And if you get a 5 or a 6 on either die, you succeed. Done, right? And now, what if you are, you know, so like if I have a hero and he's going to stab a gnoll, right? You roll 2d6, right? If you get a 5 or 6, you successfully stab that gnoll. Now, what if there's oil on the floor, right? Well, now I have disadvantage, and I roll 1d6. I can still succeed, but it's a lot harder. Okay. Now, what if the gnoll is actually on is in a little bit of oil, is on the area where it has oil and on the oil, but I'm not, right? Now I'm striking at a target that's even easier to hit, like because these guys are unsettled, you can't really dodge the way you would normally. Now I get advantage and I roll 3d6. That's virtually the entire system as far as rules. That's how you do all your checks, right? Crazy simple, crazy elegant, really, really solid, right? And all of the things that make this complex are added as optional rules, and there's very minimal optional rules. At max, there's no more than 30, 40 pages of rules in this entire 200-page book, okay? So what else is special about Tiny Dungeon 2E? Well, let me tell you what is special about Tiny Dungeon 2E. So the additional special parts of it are the character creation. All characters in Tiny Dungeon 2E fit on a 3x5 index card and take literally 5 minutes to create, right? And what it is you basically choose your race, and and we're going to talk about races in a minute. You choose your race, and then you do not choose a class. You choose your race, and then you add traits to that, okay? And the book has a list of probably like 100, maybe 200 traits. And the traits are like ambidexterity, healing, spell touched, like you can actually cast magic, or you know, berserker, like, you know, so you could be a spell touched berserker, right? It's just mix and match. It's all the coolest stuff from every class, the coolest feats, the coolest, you know, material, right? Now, this entire game is high fantasy. You can also run low fantasy with it. So Tiny Dungeon 2E stays true to its name, and it is fantasy based, and all the traits are fantasy based. But basically, you just pick your race and you pick two characteristics, and you're ready to go. Let's talk about the setting. It has a very generic set. It's not a generic setting, actually. It has a really unique, flexible setting, right? So they don't even name the world, right? But the world has the following races. It has all your standards: human, dwarf, elf, okay? In addition to that, the world has salamander creatures, salamander humanoid creatures. Karhu are specifically bears, humanoid bears that walk upright, and they cannot use ranged weapons. Awesome, right? The other thing that's in here is lizard folk. Lizard folk are very unemotional and they're hard to persuade, right? Tree folk. There's tree folk in here where you can actually play like an ant creature, but they're about 10 to 12 feet tall. Okay, so they actually are large. They're like large size, not really medium size. Everything else in here is medium size by D&D standards, right? And that's pretty much it. That's your full sweep of all your cool races and classes, right? By the way, the lizard folk, they can, maybe it's the Salamar. One of the creatures, they are either healed by cold or by heat, which is really interesting. Everything is super simple, super stripped to the nines. Like it's really bare minimalist. Here's what you need. It absolutely invites play. It wonderfully invites play. The entire game invites play. It's just fantastic. I'm so in love with this game. All right, so Dungeons & Dragons Tiny Dungeon 2E. Let me tell you a little bit more about the really cool, awesome parts of it. Let's talk about hit points, okay? The way they deal with hit points is a standard, it's really super elegant, super simple. A standard adventure has 6 to 8 hit points, okay? Some of the races can get you as high as 9 or 10 hit points, okay? A dragon, a adult ancient dragon in this game has 15 hit points. A goblin in this game has 1 hit point, right? That's it. You got a range from 1 to 15. Now, this is very similar to Index Card RPG, where I think what they did was they're just taking Dungeons and Dragons, taking the entire HP range for all creatures, taking it from 10 to 150, and then calling each 10 hit points 1, which I think is a much better way to do it. Makes it much simpler, much more engageable, much more approachable, right? But also, just so you're aware, you got your race, you have your characteristics, you have your hit points, and then everything else in the game is totally minimalized, right? So you can do, you just gather whatever your characteristics come with, you get that equipment. It's just added to your sheet. Super fast, super simple, really, really elegant and smooth. Love it. All right. In addition to that, what else is it? So all of the things I just told you are very cool and very solid, but that's not the part that makes this game special. What really makes Tiny Dungeon 2E special is a true piece of innovation, and that is micro settings. Okay, well over half of the book is dedicated to micro settings. So micro settings are a setting for your world that either use all the animal races, or and the human, dwarf, and elf, or you could easily take them out, right? And then all of these micro settings range between 5 and 15 pages long, and it's an entire setting done in 5 to 15 pages long. Sometimes the setting is like, here's this change to the world, and go, right? And it's just all fluff and a little bit of description. Sometimes it's like, here's your fluff, here's your description about the new setting, and then in addition to that, here's new races, new attributes, new magic systems, and all pared down, like just so minimalist and so elegant. This game is beautiful. Rules design is absolutely beautiful on this game. Big fan. Really, really solid. Highly recommend you go out and get immediately Tiny Dungeon 2E. Just pure baller game design. Very well put together. These micro settings are a real game changer. So basically, in this game, I'm not kidding, there's like 15 of these micro settings. Some of them are tremendous. I think his name was Toby Abad, but he did the best one in the whole game. And it's like this really very political, setting that is very like high fantasy and harkens back to old ancient rumors. But it's really, really beautifully done. It's incredibly flexible. You can use the animal races with it, or you could strip it out. It's just gorgeous. Like this game and this micro setting thing, I've heard other people say that they've seen this before. Like that Pathfinder has this, like essentially, you know, all the different realms in Pathfinder are micro settings. But the quickness that these are presented in, the ease that they're added to the book is just tremendous. And when you walk away with Tiny Dungeon 2E, you have so many ideas in your head and so many things you want to play. It's just a gorgeous, beautiful, simple, awesomely designed book that is an incredible value for your money. Incredible value for your money. So I'm over the moon about Tiny Dungeon 2E. Highly recommend purchase. Really, really solid. Big thumbs up to Alan Barr and his entire team on this. This book was Kickstartered for $66,000. And man, I'll tell you, they really did tremendous work on this book. I was really, really impressed. Take care, everybody.